XOXO, gossip girl. Pose. Hi loves, what's up? It's me, Audra. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I'm not sure how you got here, but certainly I'm glad you came. And if you are new here, well, you're in for a treat. All right, if you enjoy chaotic, frenetic energy, you like beauty, you like horror, with a little bit of commentary thrown in between, then I suggest you go on ahead and subscribe for the low, low price of $0. I will tell you a random fact about myself. And today's random fact is this. Turns out in around 6th grade, I wrote an entire 4-part series about a serial killer. That's on brand for me. Also, here are my socials. I love connecting with y'all there. I appreciate each and every one of you take time out of your day to tag me in things, make me aware of some weird stuff, and also all the creepy things. So thank you so much. So what are we here with today, Audra? Well, first of all, new year, new intro. What'd y'all think? Let me know below if you like the new intro. Or like, let me know. I want to know. Like, let me know if you hate it. If you hate it, I'm sorry. It's staying. So what we're gonna be doing today is, it is officially 20 years since 1991. All right, and since I am a person of a certain age, I wanted to kind of have a fun time talking about what it was like growing up in the 90s. And one of the things that I definitely wanted to do for 2021, if I'm perfectly honest, is combine two things that I love doing, which is talking and doing makeup. So expect a lot of talk videos from me to you this year. Normally I say that everything on my face will be in the description below. I'm not gonna guarantee that anymore, okay? Listen, I may have links to Sephora and links to Ulta, links to Marc Jacobs, links for everybody that I am affiliated with, pero es más trabajar, es más trabajar, no sé, to do all of that every single time. So if someone asks about something in particular, I will then link it in and let you know that I've linked it. But some of the things I'll show you. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And what we're gonna be talking about today is Columbia House and BMG. The 90s were wild, y'all. It boggles my mind. Face is already primed, BT dubs. It boggles my mind how much people do not know like how wild the 90s were. And I wanted to talk about, like, for some reason I thought it would be fun, the first thing I talked about being Columbia House and BMG. They were quite literally like our first real subscription boxes. Like, think on that for a sec. Ooh man, I'm going back to an OG. I was like, let me just play with my Screen Queen, because I hadn't messed with that in a little while. Ooh, girl, I don't know that I love natural finish no more. Oof, it's okay. It's okay. We'll be all right. It's gonna be fine. All right, so for those of you who are youngins, Columbia House and BMG were record clubs, CD clubs, and they were very, very important to music development and the 90s. You can say what you will about the whole thing, but they really actually were very important because up until the point that they came around, CDs were hella expensive, y'all. For those of you that don't know, CDs are these round discs, and on them is music. You're welcome. But yeah, CDs were hella expensive. Like, some CDs could be 25 bucks, and like for a teenager, whoo Lord, like that was a lot of money. When you got your allowance, which for some of us it was like 50 bucks. I don't know what everybody's allowance was, but even if it was, you know, 50 bucks for the month, you had to really like consider what it was that you wanted. Like, there, you couldn't be wishy-washy. You had to be like, yes, I want this thing. Because if you did not do that, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're running into some problems. Things weren't gonna be good. Like, legitimately, it was gonna be a bit of a problem. I'm just telling you, because if you wanted to buy a couple of things, like you wanted a pair of pants, but you also wanted a CD, it was a whole nightmare trying to figure out like what thing you should purchase. And then one day along comes Columbia House. Now, Columbia House, what they touted was this, basically what you would do is they would give you something like 6 CDs for a penny, something like that. It was like something ridiculous, but each CD was a penny plus tax. They got you there. A penny plus tax plus shipping and handling, blah, blah, blah. And it was like the most amazing thing ever, because for the first time in our young lives, we could actually afford CDs. Now, I told y'all the 90s were wild, and I'm gonna get into it in a little bit, but like we could afford to get a bunch of CDs at one time. Like all of a sudden, your wish list of CDs just like it went really fast, just went down, because you were able to get a bunch on Columbia House and BMG. And this became fantastic because at this point in time, we still had singles and whatnot from, you know, artists, but a lot of us had started getting like more and more, I wouldn't say music purists because that sounds very elitist and ridiculous, but a lot of us had become more cognizant of how the music industry worked in some ways, especially because you had things like MTV sort of showing behind the scenes stuff. So as we became cognizant of that and began to realize the very real implications of buying or not buying something. So as we became more cognizant of buying albums and what it meant to the artist when we bought things, as that started to become more of a situation where we're like, oh, I didn't know that this is how the industry worked. As we began to understand more about it, I think a lot more of us were very interested in buying albums. Plus you get older and you get more obsessed with having an entire collection of albums from your favorite artists. So of course we're out in these streets just very, very excited. If you hear me like stuttering, if you hear me stuttering on the word like, I'm trying not to say it as much, but that's how I talk. So it's very difficult, but I am trying. I want to speak more eloquently in 2021 instead of sounding like a moron. So it became a thing. You get older, and this I think happens to everyone. The older you get, the more that you're interested in having the entire catalog by somebody and getting their entire album. Like, yes, singles are available. They were anyway. But yes, singles were available. But the reality of the situation was very much that you got older and you wanted all of the stuff. You wanted everything. You wanted the whole album, because you also started to get into that music snob shit. And that's gonna come into play later. I feel like that is around where like gatekeeping really started to get very intense, because it was just a time where people would say things in the vein of, oh, well, if you like this, whatever, you should have been around when this band was here, or it's just like Led Zeppelin. And we were all sitting there kind of annoyed, just, you know, thanks music snobs, we get it, but we don't care. And so we were just kind of on this precipice of, you know, becoming adults and making our own musical decisions. And with that being the case, I just feel pretty confident that when Columbia House came along, it was the right time. It was quite literally the right time. We were all sitting there trying to figure out how we could afford the music that we love, because you wanted to support your favorite artists, but you also just could not afford it. And this was before CDR. Okay, kids, CDR is a rewritable CD disc. Remember those discs I talked about earlier, the CD? Well, right before we got the CDR, which is you could take a CD pre-filled with music and then put it in your computer and burn it onto the computer, and then take that copy there and burn it onto another CD. The whole process took like 4 hours. It's fine, don't worry about it. The lighting in this bitch, ugh. So it was right a little bit before CDR became readily available, and you meaning us, meaning you, meaning we of this age, those of us who watched the earth be born, that's me. We're just like sitting here minding our business, and then along comes Yes, you guessed it. BMG and Columbia House. And the way that they advertised themselves was that you could get like 6 CDs.
That's right, 8 CDs for the price of 1.
And you wouldn't pay, you know, full price for each CD. Instead of you paying a ridiculous amount of money for, let's do, I got an idea. I'm gonna take revenge, a little bit of revenge, and pop it here. And then I'm just gonna like put respect on top of it because we're doing adventurous shit today. Just kidding. I'm doing a purple look because it's the new year and purple makes me happy. So you would get them and the excitement was there. Now, let me just first explain to you that you were supposed to be 18 to do this, okay? And when this started, I definitely was not 18 or like really anywhere near 18.
We were scamming.
Y'all, we were scamming. So what would happen is because as far as I can remember it, Columbia House came first, and I'll definitely put some information in here, you know, letting you know what's up. But we were out in these streets scamming, and anybody who remembers Columbia House knows exactly what I'm talking about, because you would set this bitch up and you would get your CDs, and then you would be so excited. You're like, oh shit, here's my stuff coming. And here's the crazy thing about this. You had to send a check, y'all. Like, checks. All right, kids, checks are these pieces of paper that prove that money isn't real. You would just write an arbitrary amount of money on there and say that that was money, and they would accept it as money. So you had to send this this check and be like, here you go, hoes. Like, I has the monies, and you know, pick out your CDs. However, what you didn't realize, this is why I call it the first subscription box. You didn't realize that when you started this thing, you kind of like had to actually, it was a club for a reason. You had to fulfill obligations on this hoe bag. So you had to purchase a certain number of CDs at their regular price. And many of us were not prepared for that. We were just sitting there all confused. We were just, what? And again, life ruined by that, because you're so excited to get so many CDs for hella cheap, and to find out that you had to go back and buy CDs at a regular price, you were like, no! Our hearts broke, you know? Souls were destroyed. And they wouldn't leave you alone about it. That's actually how I ended up with an Enya CD, y'all. Straight facts. Like, I ended up with an Enya CD because if you didn't make a choice or say you didn't want something this month, they would just send you the like CD of the month. So I ended up with Enya, which actually wasn't a bad CD. So anyway, you had Columbia House and they tricked you. Because obviously, I mean, I'm sure adults weren't tricked, but those of us who weren't adults and were just excited to have cheap CDs, we were tricked. We got tricked. And we were very sad about the entire situation, just sitting there sad about how we had to buy CDs. But wait, there's more. One of the fantastic things that you started figuring out is BMG existed. And when BMG came around, same deal, but I feel like they offered a few more of the penny CDs than Columbia House. So you just went over and scammed that shit. And you joined BMG because you were like, oh, I'm not paying this shit again. Like, I want CDs. I don't want to pay. Now, keep in mind, we're kids. Like, we're not straight adults being assholes. We're literal kids just sitting here trying to enjoy music and play with CDs and have fun just like everybody else. That's it. And stores had gotten really like weird and kind of stingy about how they were doing stuff. The record industry was getting super stingy as well. We'll talk about, you know, the Napster effect, my experience in a later video. But they were getting really stingy, and it was just making it very difficult because all of a sudden it was just, I don't know, it just seemed really, really hard to get a CD. And Also, parental advisories had started popping up on CDs. For those of you that don't know, it was a whole big mess about just parents being, this music is out of control and that's why our kids are wild. It couldn't be that the whole generation before us failed us. No, not that. It's the music. Well, anyway. So then you jump in on BMG, but it's like the same thing applied. You thought you were gonna get out of it. You're just like, yes. And now I have BMG. They can't do this shit to me anymore. It turns out they can, and they did, and they will. So you had to start learning how to be a good scammer. Okay, just an FYI that this concealer is gonna be so bright. I'm aware of the situation, but I am also trying to kind of finish some of this up. So I don't really particularly want to hear it. Okay, thank you. I know it's gonna be bright. This is gonna happen in quite a few of these talkity talk videos. But if I want to use things up, not in a panning way, but in a, I know that I'm gonna be bringing more makeup into my collection this year, and I would like to do it in a responsible as I can, because I'm not the most responsible human being. That's fine. It's fine. Leave me alone. We talked.
It was way too much concealer, and I am going to struggle with it. I'm sorry. Okay.
By the way, this sponge from Midas is just really quickly becoming my favorite, and I have to get more of them. I'm gonna order more of these because these are this is a really good sponge, y'all. Like, I'm like, hello? Who created, like, I just love this. So this is where the scamming begins, because once you fulfilled your obligation, you know, you're not really eligible again to start over. But we're just sitting there thinking to ourselves, but I want more CDs, but I don't want to pay that kind of money. One day I'll be such a professional with this lighting, and I keep saying that. It's, you know, again, it's not today. Just, you know, give me some grace. I always forget how much coverage this foundation this concealer has, and then I end up looking like a whole ass clown. So today, for the very first day of my January content, I present to you 2016 Makeup Audra, 2016 concealer, and me and my forgetfulness of how intense this coverage is. We're gonna play with it, and it's gonna work itself out. So, remember I told you we got scammy. So you know how these days you just like create for a new email every time you want to get the new members for whatever site you're on. They're like, oh, new, if you're new, sign up. Give us an email address and you'll get 15% off or 20% off. And you're like, hell yeah, creating new email. So the equivalent of that back in the day was just that you made up a new name. Y'all, it's kind of hurting my feelings. Like, to think about this, it's actually sort of giving me like I'm feeling some type of way about this. Now I think about it, just like, man, we were hella scammy. 90s were wild. 90s were wild. When I tell you, like, it was just a whole free-for-all. And this is the thing. People think that today is wild, but imagine doing all the shit we used to do in the 90s, but not having anyone film it. I'm just letting y'all know. No one was filming this shit. We were just running wild, doing whatever the hell we wanted to do. All right, so what you would do is create a new name and just start over. You would literally just make a new name and then start this shit the fuck over. You'd be like, it's fine, it's fine. And so, parents, people that are around, I don't know, between the ages of, I don't know, 54 to 54 and up, if you ever wondered why your child suddenly got super duper interested in the mail, it is because I did not want to face questions like, who's Francesca Diamond? Francesca Diamond is me. It's me. I wanted more CDs. Because your name scheming started even with you just being like, I'm gonna order it with my middle name. I am not even kidding. I was just like, I'm ordering it with my middle name. And so I would. And then and you just order it with your middle name, same last name, do your thing. You would. Y'all tell me that I'm lying. For those of you who made it, tell me if I'm lying. Tell me, because I'm telling the truth. Y'all know I'm telling the absolute truth about what was going on here. That we were doing some scammy ass shit. It wasn't great. Was it a good look? No. Did we do it anyway? Yes. You know why? Fuck capitalism. That's why. You would change your name and then, because then it never occurred to them to be, you know, sitting there thinking to themselves, this is the same address for a different person. Yes. You know, we were just out in these streets doing the absolute worst that we could do. And yeah, we did that over and over again. And here was the thing. So you had your the first time it worked when you just went with like your middle name, the way that you felt triumphant, unparalleled. You literally sat there like, these fools. And I'm not kidding. That was our mentality. We just sat there like, these fools. Ha 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 ha. I've got them now. We are ridiculous. Kids are ridiculous. Kids are ridiculous people. Teenagers are horrible humans. The majority of us were a horrible human. That's about when you start learning kind of how to be less of a horrible human, but not when it came to capitalism. And this is what I'm talking about. When you're growing up 90s, we learned very early, just like fuck capitalism. And we weren't very excited about that whole system that was put into place. We literally sat there looking at each other. Who did this? Why? Why? If you look at 90s movies, so many of them were centered around how much we hate it. Especially the US, I'm speaking from a US perspective. You'd get your first one and you'd start again, start scamming with a new name, but you'd also go over to BMG. So you were alternating between Columbia House and BMG and just being like as scammy as possible. Making up all of these names, running to the mail, which is nothing. No good intentions were there. There were no good intentions in that whole situation. We were, quite frankly, running these streets and we were just doing it very recklessly. It was some reckless ass shit we were up to. And if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I'm surprised that we made it and that more of us aren't career criminals. Now, the fall of BMG and Columbia House, a lot of it had to do with really a lot of people just not fulfilling their obligations. There's that. But also technology changed that. The CDR started coming into play. So realistically, you realize you didn't have to buy a CD. And I know that musicians and art should be paid for. Got it. But keep in mind again, young people, don't care, not nice, okay? We're not nice people. We don't understand everything. We thought we understood everything because you always do when you're young. You're always like, no, I get it. I understand exactly how it works. You don't, we didn't. But at the time, we just really didn't get it. Didn't understand the impact of what it was that we were doing. And so once CDR became available, here was the thing about that though. The flip side of CDR, the side that I will always agree with, is that having CDs was very difficult at that time because listening to them in a fashion other than just in your house, because they started doing things like making CDs available to you or being able to listen to CDs in your car and like walking around because they invented, you know, the Discman and all of this stuff. So now all of a sudden you had access to listen to your CDs in other ways, like on the go. You could listen to music on the go, which, you know, unheard of at the time. It was kind of an insane idea. Now look at us. We're just carrying music in our pockets every damn day. We don't even think about it. But then it was a big deal and it wasn't friendly to the CD, okay? You bought a CD and you were really excited. You were scratching this bitch up, just trying to carry it around, just trying to do normal ass things with it. You weren't trying to do anything fancy. You weren't trying to fuck it up. Like you weren't deliberately trying to scratch or destroy your CD. We loved our CDs. But the problem came in that when you scratched it, you had to replace it. And it was very expensive. I'm not gonna lie. That shit was hella expensive. So, you know, imagine we had to keep paying like the same amount. We're gonna try to make a baby wing because I kind of like the way that this is set up. So, you know, I know that my wings are really sharp, but we're gonna do something else. It kind of turned out in a lot of ways that you were just kind of stuck in this position where you weren't particularly excited about having to buy the same shit again and again. it became very, very frustrating for a lot of us. I'm gonna just put it in the middle like so. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, moving on. Because you'd already purchased it. And initially, I feel like that's what a lot of us used it for. We hadn't quite figured out yet that you could make a CD for someone else. We were more just using it for ourselves. And the other side of it too was being able to create your own personal mix, right? Because buying a CD again was expensive, but also sometimes like all the songs weren't great. All the songs weren't bangers. And they'd also started phasing out singles. So you couldn't even just be like, I'm going to go buy this one single. And if you're gonna ask me, this was really the height of corporate music greed, like the height of it. It just reached a level that many of us were not prepared to accept. I think all of us knew that it costs money. We got that. We understood that, yes, it costs money to make albums. Yes, we got all of that. What we didn't understand though was how the costs were outrageously passed on to us. And then also, alternatively, we started to learn that the artists weren't even making a large chunk of that money. So imagine our surprise. And believe you me, our surprise was real. We were as we started finding out more and more how many artists were just like regularly getting screwed by the record labels and how much money how much more the money labels were making versus the actual artists, and the awful deals that these folks got kind of roped into. Of course, yes, should people do research and learn things? Yes, okay, we didn't know that at the time. We just understood that a lot of artists were getting screwed. We didn't like it. It actually goes back, like we knew this for a long time, but for me, one of my first realizations that was happening was Vanilla Ice, Don't Laugh at Me. And then we just started to realize that we got older and older and older and older and started to realize this was a common practice, that record labels were regularly taking advantage of artists. So this was kind of like our coup, one of our first moves in the 90s of saying, you know, fuck you to capitalism. And so there were a couple of things that really played into that change. One of the things, of course, like I said, being the CDR, but also of the rewritable discs getting cheaper and cheaper, because at first it was super expensive. You would pay like $50 for 10 of them. It was pretty intense. And so it was a whole deal. But as those started to get cheaper and cheaper, which obviously the record industry did not like, you just noticed that you didn't need your Columbia House or your BMGs nearly as much, because if your friend got an album, y'all had the album. You know, everybody had it. Whoever got Real Big Fish first, you all had Real Big Fish. Whoever got Tool first, you all had Tool. So it was just kind of like almost a rotation of who would buy what and who would burn CDs for whom. And it was a whole thing. But I'm never going to forget how much fun that was looking back on it. Just like all the weird, scammy shit. Plus you could buy albums that no one had to know you bought it. You could buy shit that you just didn't want anybody to know. I'm pretty sure that's actually how I got my first Britney Spears album, was because even though I was too cool for school, man. I listened to Tool and Rammstein and Marilyn Manson and Rage Against the Machine. I'm not a Britney fan. You know, 'cause this is how you act when you're young. Well, at least I did. I don't know if y'all did. So I was basically busy being super cool and different and alternative. And really, I was just like, no, this is kind of a cool album. So that's how I got Britney Spears, was Columbia House, BMG type shit. And they just kind of, as far as I know, they seem to just fade out into obscurity. I think I looked this up once, and I don't even know that they're still running, but I don't know how they possibly could. But then you also had Napster come into play as well. So all of these things just conspired together where people just didn't need the entire CD anymore. Repurchasing a CD was a nightmare and a half because, again, the parental advisories made it hard. So if you weren't 18 and you did not go, if you went to Best Buy, which was a place to, in smaller towns, Best Buy was where you got CDs. Best Buy in Hastings. Point blank and period. That's where you got your CDs from, Best Buy and Hastings, because in smaller towns, it's not that there weren't small record shops, but it was a lot harder to do it there just because of the fact that you had the big corporate one. So you either had to know somebody who worked there who was gonna let you slide, or like, it was just done. So of course, being, you know, 15, 16 years old, it just made it very hard for you to buy an album that you were interested in buying because the parental advisories were on there. You had to have your parents there. It's not like my mom wouldn't buy it, but then she would ask me questions about it, and I hated trying to explain some of these things to my mom. Not because my mom would be understanding, but because I was a teenager, and it was kind of awkward to just explain why this album had a parental advisory. Because on Mondays we wear black, and black lipstick goes with everything. Doesn't it though? We're gonna just top it off a little bit, give it a little glimmer. All right, you maybe can't see it here, but I can definitely see it and it looks great. So in conclusion, the 90s were a time of collecting CDs, and Columbia House and BMG allowed us to scam our way to multiple CDs. We have books of CDs, y'all. I think I used to have them. I don't know where they are now. I probably left them in the divorce, but I used to have thick books just filled with CDs, and you would just carry them everywhere. And the sliding in and out thing actually ruined them. It was supposed to be great, but it ruined them because you were just like trying to drive, trying not to murder anybody as you tried to change your CD, and then holding on to the player so that when you hit a bump, I will talk about that another time. All right, y'all, that's it. That is the video. I hope you all enjoyed this journey back to the 90s with me. I hope you enjoyed this series. I'm going to continue doing it for a little while here, see if y'all enjoy it. If you do, we'll keep doing it. But I thought it would just be fun to just kind of talk about what it was like for me growing up in the 90s, all the weird, scammy things that we did, and what kind of lives we led when it was not being filmed, which it was dangerous. Danger zone. All right. As usual, huge shout out to my patrons and spooky bays. Yeah. You know it costs $0 to be kind, and in that vein, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It's so good for your soul, because otherwise, if you don't take care of it, I'm sure as hell coming for yours. Until next time, peace out, be safe, and XOXO, got the girl. This is a really pretty look I'm putting together. Go, Audra, it's your birthday. I wouldn't be sweating this hard on my home planet, just saying. Is it good, mommy? New Year, same shitty lighting. Okay, hold on. The way that there is sweat actually like rolling down my back right now, ma'am, your weirdness is showing. I know. The sweat. Can y'all see my armpit sweating? My skin always looks so like good. It makes me really happy, and I feel uncomfortably happy by liking it. Oh. Okay.